Hey, MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology for another quick MMT chat. My guests today are from New Freedom, Pennsylvania. They are with Eden Tool Company, a precision plastic injection mold builder. So meet Mike Eden, president of Eden Tool Company, Dave Tomic, VP of Eden Manufacturing, and Jake Eden, who is in engineering with both Eden Tool and Eden Manufacturing. And I'm told that he's the swag manager. So Jake, what the heck is that?
Well, we're real big on looking good here. So, I mean, you look good, you play good. So we had to come out with some nice swag for everybody.
I love that. People love free stuff. So that's a good idea. That's a good position to have. So this chat is going to be a little bit of a teaser for an upcoming feature story I'm writing after I visited you guys recently, actually this past summer. It's all about hot rods and performance. It's about predictable manufacturing and going beyond mold building with a new venture that is also creating a legacy through a son, and a new partnership. So Mike, Eden is no stranger to the press. You've had coverage on Eden Tool's EDM expertise and your hard milling capabilities mostly. But I want to chat about what I saw when I walked into the shop. And it was a bunch of beautiful, awesome hot rods. And not only that, during my visit, I got to ride in two of them. I was able to see and feel the quality, the detail, the power, and the performance, which I learned directly ties to what I see in Eden Tool. So Mike, walk me through your passion for hot rods, and then let's, tie that a little bit to your slogan of Eden Performance.
Yeah, well, hot rods is just born into my, seems to be born into me. I grew up in a small town here, New Freedom, was born and raised here, shops here. So I grew up in a little alley, had a little blacksmith shop behind us. We do a lot of fabricating, different things. Always had the coolest bikes, always had because we had access to the welding and then all the fabrication back there. So always had the longest choppers and all of the tallest everything. So and then right next door was a guy that owned a shop here in town, a garage repair shop. I had was into racing and had a 70 Nova at the time. A race car, so it was into my blood. I'd ride when I was 4 years old. I'd ride my little wheel over to his shop, which was right up the street, and hang out there all day. So when it comes to metalwork and mechanicals and anything along those natures, I was born into me pretty early on. So the car stuff was bred into me early on with my father. He was always into cars, and of course the whole back alley there was guys up and down the alleys had 32 Fords and 55 Chevys, and it was always something going on in the garage, and I always hung out in the garage. So the attention to detail became to me early on with the car stuff, the hot rods, and we always took everything to the next level, or even early on. My first car was a 70 El Camino. That we sold a while back. We just recently purchased, and so that's getting redone. That's going to be, that's going to be with Jake then, and it's going to be his basically first hot rod. So, those attention details try to take the next levels where we took the cars early on, but then it's also because of attention detail and the characteristics of being a tool maker early on, and that's where those tendencies actually came from. So with starting my own shop, it was all about cleanliness, all about attention detail, performance of the machines, and just all tied in with the hot rod industry, and that comes the flames. And I remember Todd Schuett way back, got on about the flames. Like, what's the deal with the flames? Like, well, that's me. Right. That's me. That's this. Well, it's nothing to do with, it's nothing to do with the mold building. As yet, it is our molds perform. So that's where we're at. So we just had a little fun with with the flames and time with the hot rods, and we have a lot of women coming here for audits, and first thing they ask, they want to sit down in the conference room and they want to know where the hot rod shop is. I don't own a hot rod shop, but we do have several cars we play with, and so it is something to have fun with. Just like you, Christine, we took you to dinner in one, and So it's fun. We take everybody, the engineers come, they want to ride in hot rod to go to lunch or everything, and
I love it.
so it
It's
works.
not just a gimmick. Like it actually defines what the mold building aspect is all about. And that's what I love about it. I mean, the industry itself, and there's so many, I mean, there's a huge percentage that are into cars, obviously. So it's a natural fit that way, but it's so much more than that. And I just think it was pretty brilliant for you to make that connection just to attract people and make them feel comfortable when they come into your shop, and surprise them a little bit because they're not expecting to see that. So
Right, yeah,
kudos to on the marketing side.
Yeah, so like when you walked in here, I mean, you're probably devastated. I mean, I see your eyes. You walk around, it's like seeing the floor. You've got a big checkerboard floor, and it's flawless. You eat off of, and but just a lot of that's with our customers too. I mean, we deal with a lot of high-end medical customers, and that's what they expect coming into our shop. And even if it didn't do medical, it'd still be the same way.
I agree.
So it's always it's just that little attention detail and trying to be better at all times and try to push the envelope all the time. And that's the same thing we do with our cars,
So Jake, being in the next generation, you're a next genner. Can you chime in a little bit about your interest in hot rods, and how has that and everything your father said, how has that connected to your work at Eden Tool over the years?
Well, I mean, obviously growing up under him, you're introduced to this at a very young age. So from early on, I was riding around in hot rod strollers, going to car shows. So just like him,
I saw those.
So, I mean, just the same as him, the attention to detail was always there. I learned to drive at a young age. Just everything I did, I started young, which I'm really thankful for. I really appreciate that. So when I got in the engineering room, I was 14, and just knew how he was with cars. It's going to be the same way in the engineering. Everything was going to be attention to detail. You can't slip up. You just gotta make sure everything goes the extra mile, and you pick up on everything you can. So from an early age, not just cars but engineering, I've had to jump on a lot of kids my age just from attention to detail.
That's awesome. So Eden Tool is about a 13-person shop, right? Right. And it has, I mean, I witnessed a nice mix of the seasoned and the next generation worker, even for a small workforce like that. So Jay, can you talk a little bit about Eden Tool's efforts in developing its next generation of mold builders and molders? How are you attracting and keeping that next generation in manufacturing?
Well, I mean, obviously, the persona around this is that it's a generate, or like the people who work in the shops are an older generation. But at Eden, like we obviously know, it's very important to consider what the future is going to be like, because we don't want to just maintain where we're at. We want to grow and get bigger. So with that, we're going to need a younger generation to come in and grow. So for instance, a kid I went to kindergarten with, grew up with, he wasn't sure what he wanted to do out of high school. So he approached my dad, and he just wondered if he could start like just a co-op work thing through the school, see what it was like. And he got into it, realized what all the industry is about, fell in love, and then he's just started an apprenticeship here. So I mean, just one example. And then I started working here when I was 11, engineering, like I said, when I was 14. So just getting kids involved and interested has been a huge thing for Eden. And it's not like we want to stop at just us two. Like, we understand how important it is to get kids in here and learn our attention to detail first, rather than somewhere else and retrain them in 20 years.
Exactly. You even have a star female on the shop floor too, which I'm seeing more and more of that, over the past probably 10 years. So I want to talk about, is that April, right?
That's April. Yep.
She's a find, correct?
She was a real find. She came to us, and we were very fortunate she came to us when she did, because we really didn't have a spot for her. But when you get a person like that's loyal and again, attention detail and detail oriented and very good at what she does, come to us, and we weren't pursuing her, and so we didn't have a spot for it at the time. But you got to make position for her,
That's right.
And we will have something a year and a half from now. But so we, she's on board with us, and we love her to death, and she's been doing a great job with polishing and doing a lot of the different things, also laser engraving, and just doing ordering some parts for us, doing some shipping, and she was doing a great job for us, and we'd like to have 3 more of her if we could,
That's awesome. Yeah. So Dave, during my visit, we talked a lot about hard milling, as a key process at Eden Tool, and actually in your career, from learning more about you. But mostly with regards to something you call predictable manufacturing. So can you explain exactly what that is, as succinctly as you can, and and why that is important to Eden Tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So hard milling is really, coming from a tool making background, both mold and tool and die, predictable manufacturing has always been centered around my experience. And so when I developed and started developing hard milling many years ago, it was centered around that too. How can we put a block in, and how can we program it macro-based within certain defined processes and come out with a very, very tight expected result? And that's using lasers, that's using automation, that's using specific CAM software, specific algorithms, a lot of which we developed and tweaked. But really, that is the backbone of everything between Eden Tool and Eden Manufacturing. Predictable manufacturing. Without predictability, you're not good.
No, exactly. So you take that, so you basically took that predictable manufacturing, and you now with this new venture in Eden Manufacturing, which right now is about manufacturing like precision medical components. It's not, I think right now it's just molding, but it's going to be much more than molding parts. From what I understand, you're going to be purchasing all different kinds of technology to offer a menu of services on that side or outside mold building. So how does predictable manufacturing, when you think of it as from the hard milling process in a tool shop, how does that translate to that side of Eden Manufacturing?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We're taking this in phases and we're launching everything with the foundation of predictable manufacturing. So predictable manufacturing means that we do proper development work, manufacturing engineering up front to work through the details, set up a proper, robust process, because ultimately that means that we are on time with high quality parts to our customer. Without a predictable background, we can't accomplish that. And really, it's all customer centric, and quality and delivery are two things that we cannot compromise on. And the only way we can deliver that is through predictable manufacturing.
Got it. And from what I understand too, Eden Manufacturing, I talked a lot to Mike about Jake and Mike and their journey within the company itself. And this is somewhere where, Jake, you are committed to growing that, and you are excited about kind of taking ownership of that, and you have dreams about this part of the business, don't you?
Yeah, so right now I just started college up at Penn State. I'm going for mechanical and biomedical engineering. And the general idea is to start is we obviously, like you said, we want to do more than just molding. So when we get high-end medical parts in here, I need to have some type of background to understand it to help with the engineering aspect of things. But the dream, at least for me personally, one day is I'd like to have my own medical line in some sort. I'd just like to be able to help people make a direct impact on someone's life and just know I made a difference somewhere.
That's awesome, which is very relevant today in the COVID environment, right? That people are really discovering that manufacturing and, specifically mold building has had a critical role in saving lives, and actually preventing things that are happening. So that's right up that alley. So Mike, I have to ask, because meeting you and Dave and getting to spend some time with you, you are very different personality-wise from my perspective, and yet you have so much in common on your vision for what Eden Tool and Eden Manufacturing is going to be. So can you try to briefly sum up, how did you find each other, and build this unique partnership?
Well, it's very hard to find somebody who's really attention to detail oriented. And Dave and I got hooked up through hard milling, years ago. And just immediately talk with him and understanding where he was going. I was asking some questions, and his reply was like, "Really, Mike, you took notice of that?" Because nobody else, I asked the same questions, and they just look at me like I got three heads. So, him and I would discover some things and understand, not really quite understand it, but discover it and talk through some things. And Dave was ahead of the curve way before we got into hard milling. But the key thing with Dave was his attention to detail and trying to come up with a system to actually work with the hard milling process. And so he was very valuable for us to get up to speed, that much quicker. And even some of the processes that he helped us out with years ago, we still use today. And that's been since back in 06, 07 range.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
And then, so back then he worked at a shop up in Canada, and back then I never outsourced any mold at all, hardly any work at all. And so we had them actually build, we got a big project and actually had them help us with some engineering, actually built 2 of the molds. And I was nervous, but I knew with Dave there, I was totally fine, and it worked out great. And then we ended up doing some work for them, which they never sent out any work either, that type of work. And just, it worked for both of us, and both shops was the attention to detail, and we just, it works for, like I say, it's very hard to find that small shop that with that attention. The big shops usually get lost because it's just too many people.
Yeah. Dave, do you agree with this matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike's been fun to work with, and attention to detail. It's not about having a partner where you're all aligned. You need to be aligned philosophically and not on the specifics. Mike and I bring a different side, different strengths, different viewpoints, and I think that's what teamwork is really all about. If we were actually identical, this would be bad, right?
Yeah.
And we need the same foundation. We need the same drive to deliver consistent quality products on time to our customers, whether that's tooling, whether that's parts, whether that's consulting knowledge, because that's also what we do, is we do manufacturing consulting. Either or, all of that has to be at top tier every time. And that's the foundation of deliverable. And then we bring 2 different sides to it, because as a team, you're you're stronger together than you are separate.
Yep. Actually, it's a lot like a marriage, guys. I hate to say it, you really, if people are too similar, it can work against you sometimes. So I agree.
We're very similar on our manufacturing type expectations, but personality-wise, we're probably 180 from each other. I'm definitely not the most politically correct guy at all times, and Dave seems to be more prim and proper at all times. So it's it keeps me in check.
You know what I like to, and I think that's great, because you are so real, Mike, and so is Dave and Jake. You all are. I got that sense of how real and honest you are and transparent about things. But there's definitely that you can play against each other in terms of when you're going in to meet a customer. It's a nice blend of personalities that you can kind of get along with anybody, with the blend there. So I think that's great. So what is my last question before I let you go? So when I was there, COVID interrupted the actual building of the building for Eden Manufacturing. So as of right now, what is the most current update on Eden Manufacturing and any current work that you're doing right now for that side of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So COVID's been in some cases a blessing and a curse. What it has been for sure, I think everybody is a disruptor, right? Sadly, that's the reality. In some cases, it's been good. In certain cases, it's definitely delayed some things. And one of the things Mike and I looked at, and we delayed our building. Put it on the back burner for now until things stabilize. We have launched our metrology system is in place. We're on just delivering our roadmap for our ISO certification, 9001, 1345. All of that does not need the building, so we have a bunch of work to put in place. And some of our customers, we want to get through those audits and deliver some of that to our customers, so we can start making redundant product for them. Right, that's really perfect. A milestone. So the building is not holding that up. Our commitment to going forward is not held up. What we are doing is looking and to be cautious, given the landscape, to just be prudent with our expenditures.
Smart. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I want everybody out there listening to be on the lookout for my story on Eden Tool that's coming out soon. And remember, for everything mold making related, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Everyone out there, stay safe and healthy, and more importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.